for the ride home in ENC.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
This is your 5 o'clock drive with Patrick Johnson.
Holy mackerel!
More news, more interviews, more ECU stories than you can shake a stick at. Hey, stop shaking that stick. This is the Patrick Johnson Show.
Pirates win! Pirates win!
On 94.3 The Game.
All right, hello again, everybody, and welcome. It is the Patrick Johnson Show to get you to the weekend edition. We've got a lot to get to. Thanks for being with us here this afternoon as the Pirates do get a victory over Rice in the opening game for ECU in the American Conference Tournament in Clearwater, Florida. Pirates with the win today. We'll jump into that in just a bit. Nice to have you along. A lot has obviously developed in the last 24 hours since we were on the air with you, and we'll get into all of that as well, especially as it pertains to a lot of news coming out of this state. Right now, we say hello this afternoon. Dom Kasolki.
I think we're going to lose.
Is going to be in the house with us here today. The just double graduate, Dom Kasolki.
Oh, yeah. Life is good. Finally done with
How
school.
do you feel about that, Dominic? Yeah, so you're out. You're done. You're not going to become Dr. Dom at any point.
No more school for me. I'm done with it. I'm very happy to not have that weight on my shoulders any longer, and I get to just work here with you.
How was your graduation weekend, Dom? How did it go? I mean, was there anything special that stood out, or how was all of that?
I mean, it was pretty similar to the first one. There wasn't much difference. We got to see I think his name's Kevin Williams, the Scream creator, writer. So he was a good speaker. That was fun. I got to see my parents and my girlfriend, and pretty similar to the first one, but I'm very thankful for the people in my life.
Were you in the stadium? Did you participate in that, or did you just go to the department? Oh, you did? Okay.
No, I did both. That's where Kevin Williamson spoke, so I got to see both.
Where was the where were you in relation to the Mr. Beast set?
So we really only got like a fourth of the field, where it was like most of the set was Mr. Beast. So we were on Dowdy's side. We were on the Boneyard side, and it kind of just had like a little circle of people. It wasn't as spread out as it was the year before, but to me it wasn't a problem. Some people did not like that. I didn't find a problem with it. Gotcha. It was a little squished, but a lot of people graduating is what it is.
Were you just happy to be getting the advanced degree sheepskin and moving on?
Yeah, I was ready to be done. I'm over it.
You're ready to be done.
Yeah,
I got you. Oh wow, over it. Well, all right. Well, Dom Kasolki, a man with 2 degrees, too smart to be producing this show. I'll say that.
No.
All right, coming up in a few minutes, James Giglio is going to be with us. James is the son of our great friend Joe Giglio, who's got the OG podcast. We have Joe on pretty frequently. Enjoy having him on. First time we'll have his son James on today. Really good job he's doing for Hoist the Colors, and they did a watch-along today, and we'll find out if they'll be doing one tomorrow and what exactly will be happening with that. So that'll be James Giglio coming up in just a little bit. Here on this Friday, it's a Victory Friday for ECU baseball. We'll discuss that and more in our Top 5 at 5, our top 5 stories in the world of sports here.
This may very well be our last mission. Let's make it count.
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
It's impossible.
Now some stories you may have heard.
You ready?
Or catch it for the first time. This is your 5 at 5 with the P-Man.
Number 1.
Alrighty, number 1, Pirates advance in the American Conference Tournament with a 4-3 win over Rice. The Pirates trailed 1-0, but answered with a pair of runs in the third and the fourth innings to build a 3-run lead before hanging on to the victory. Not a lot going for the bats outside of the middle innings, but Jack Herring was outstanding with a game-tying home run and a run-scoring double to push the lead to 3 runs. The Pirates will play tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe, against the winner of UTSA and Memphis. That's going on right now with UTSA up 1-0.
So I certainly think that, a win's a win. The big story out of this seems to be, and we'll talk to James about this, the big story out of this is Ethan Norby came in relief and worked the final 2 1/3 innings
Yeah.
And you got a pretty good start, too, from Ryan Towers. So I think that's the story out of this. And what does that mean for tomorrow? So does that change you? Because I can't imagine you're coming back with Norby starting tomorrow. I just can't imagine.
No,
that's
definitely not.
And I can't even see a moment where Norby would necessarily pitch tomorrow unless it were in a super hyper specific local. You hope him maybe one batter kind of situation. Maybe that would be the case. I just can't imagine you're going to go out and throw him before Sunday, and you're probably not. I thought that was an interesting move.
I could possibly see it in Game 2 if we lose Game 1 tomorrow at 10 a.m. In Game 2, I mean, if it's win or go home at that point, you could see it for maybe an inning, and then you just can't use him Sunday anymore. It's a tough decision to make, and you put yourself in this position by doing this. You got the win, so it looks good right now, but I think the decision is the final verdict is kind of looming large. Are we going to get a good start out of Payne tomorrow? Are we going to get enough innings out of him to not have guys in the bullpen?
Luke Payne's been really good the last 2 times he started. So
yes.
You hope that you have some confidence there. You hope it can continue. You're not looking for him to go as long, I think, as a Norby would in a normal start for Norby, or even as Ryan Towers has. You're looking for him to get you 3. If you get 4, big deal. The other part of this is Rose only pitched 22 innings in the inning of work he did today. So you'll see him back. I said Rose, I meant Webb. Webb only pitched 22 innings today, Joseph Webb. So he seems like, he should be available to come back tomorrow again. It's usually about an hour of recovery for every pitch you throws, one of the adages.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that he'd be available to go tomorrow if need be in a relief role at some point. Now, how long they'll extend him, we'll see. The other thing, you mentioned Jack Herring. And to me, what Jack Herring did was to show everybody in the American, I should have been on the first team.
Oh, of course.
Because Jack Herring has had an unbelievable season. He inches closer to the record of consecutive games reached in program history and hit a home run to tie the game. It drove in what proved to be the winning run. The fact that David Whitaker was totally snubbed is one thing. But Herring, in a way, the snub is greater because he probably should have been on the first team.
He should have been.
In fact, not probably. He should have been on the first team.
Yeah, he 100% should have been.
He proved that out there today.
I think he's
that is the...
I think he's one game off the record now? One game off tying it?
He's maybe one game off tying it. So, pretty close. And now, theoretically, he would have the chance, even if they don't get to the tournament final, to surpass it. But he's just had an absolutely fantastic year. All right, so 10 a.m. tomorrow will be a 9:45 airtime on 94.3 The Game, and the IBX Media app on the ECU Sports Network will have a watch-along, I believe, tomorrow as well. And we'll confirm all this when we talk to James Giglio more about the game coming up in our next segment. He was covering it today for the watch-along and has done a great job, actually, of covering it all season for Hoist the Colors. Next.
Number 2.
Alrighty, an end of an era of NC State baseball. Longtime Wolfpack head coach Elliott Avent has announced he'll retire following the 2026 season. After 30 years leading the program in Raleigh, Avent leaves as the winningest coach in school history, guiding State to multiple College World Series appearances and helping transform the Wolfpack into a national baseball power. The announcement comes as speculation had grown in recent weeks about his future with the program. And Chris Hart is now promoted as the 17th head coach in the program's history. That was announced earlier.
So apparently, Elliott Avent did not get along very well with the AD, Boo Corrigan.
The Wolfpack A for soft people.
Well, and they did not see eye to eye. Elliott Avent had become a really revered figure there in West Raleigh. Elliott Avent had gotten the team to 3 College World Series. And the year that it was the COVID year, a lot of people felt like they were poised to win the College World Series, but ended up being bounced from it and not beaten, but bounced from it because of the COVID restrictions, which, looking back, look even more ridiculous now than they were at the time. So tough deal there. The interesting thing to me will be where the Wolfpack program goes as far as its relationship with playing East Carolina and how regularly. Again, this is something we'll talk to James Giglio and get his opinion on next segment. But I also think what has been done just down the road at North Carolina maybe has expedited the process of we need a new voice in the clubhouse. We need a new voice at the top of the program. Elliott Avent's had a great deal of success. He's had years when Carolina's been good, and he's beaten North Carolina. But what Scott Forbes has done there, they're a top 2, 3, 5 team in the country routinely. And I don't see that letting up. And so to me, the NC State thing, it maybe feels like, and I don't know the inning, this is a lot of reading between the lines, but it just seems like they felt like a fresh coat of paint maybe was needed to helm the program. Also, they had not given him a contract extension physically for a while because going to the College World Series, as the Wolfpack had in recent times, it kicked in some language that, hey, you go to Omaha, you get, extension, you get more term on your contract. So that probably had as much to do with it as anything. I'd be interested to see, though, what kind of tone NC State baseball takes in the coming years with Elliott Avent no longer at the helm. Because there was a time there where they couldn't get on the same page and play East Carolina. And you'd hear kind of conflicting things about that, but, to his credit, they've played the last few years. And the Pac swept ECU this year in the 2 matchups and looked really good in doing so. So congrats to Elliott Avent on certainly a lengthy career in Raleigh. What we got next?
Number three.
Sad one here. NASCAR championship driver Kyle Busch has passed away at the age of 41. Reports are starting to emerge that Busch experienced a medical emergency and has partially been revealed by a 911 audio obtained by TMZ Sports, with a caller saying the NASCAR superstar was struggling to breathe, overheating, and coughing up blood. So here's some audio from that clip.
Yes. Could I get an ambulance? I've got an individual that's shortness of breath, very hot, thinks he's going to pass out, and is producing a little bit of blood, coughing up some blood.
Male or female? Is he awake?
He is awake. He's awake. He's on the bathroom floor right now.
Okay.
So when you come in, if you could not make it, can you turn the sirens off?
Yeah, that's fine.
When you get here, and so when you come into the main entrance of the building, the closest way to get to him is if you go to the left. Like you'll come in and the parking lot splits to the right or the left. Just tell them to go to the left. I'll be out here waiting on them, and I'll flag them down. There's a side door further down the side of the building that I'll be there waiting on them.
Okay, we got him coming out there. Just nothing else for him to eat or drink. And if he gets worse in any way before they get there, just call us back. What was the exact name of your business back there?
It's called the General Motors Charlotte Technical Center. It's off of Speedway Boulevard. It's close to. It's right beside HMS Motorsports.
Okay.
Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah.
We will let EMS know. Okay, we got him coming out there.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
So that is TMZ obtaining the copy of the 911 call in Charlotte yesterday. And by, we started the show, and one of the things we talked about early since we were so guest heavy yesterday was that Busch was not going to drive in the race. He'd had a pretty severe medical situation. And then by the time the show wrapped up yesterday, the news was starting to come out that he had indeed died at the age of 41. A little piece of foreshadowing here and a little piece of perhaps irony. This is some of the radio communication from Busch in the race a couple weeks ago up in New York, talking to, I guess, his crew, and he said the following.
doctor guy. Tell him I need him after the race, please.
So he was basically calling for the guy who's the doctor with Hendrick Motorsports. We don't know if this is related, but it certainly is kind of an ironic piece of audio that has been discovered and was kind of unearthed this morning, much like this 911 call, and made public. Obviously, you look at what Busch has done, was a guy that was either a love him or hate him kind of guy for much of his career. He had owned a truck team in recent years, and it really helped launch a lot of young drivers' careers. And he had 234 career wins among the 3 series in NASCAR. And that's the most, that's the 2 different stock series and then the truck series. A lot of wins. And so 41 is awfully young. It may not be to you, Dom, because you're young, but let me tell you, 41 is awfully young.
No, it's brutal. That's way too young.
Yeah. And it's a shocking development, especially with one of the big signature events of the year about to transpire with the Coca-Cola 600. And I'm sure NASCAR and the folks at the 600 Charlotte Motor Speedway track will do a lot of things pre-race, and appropriately so. But, man, what a terrible situation to have that. And I've listened to some NASCAR programming where they were taking calls from the different fans and in the last 24 or so hours, and it's certainly a very shocking death, especially as it would be for anyone at that age to pass away. But certainly our condolences go out to the family and his race team and just the NASCAR community. Tough stuff. It'll be interesting to hear from Pilk next week about some of that, because I'm sure a lot of that there'll be a lot of emotion in the building, as they say, coming up. All right, let's go to the next topic here. What you got, Dominic?
Four.
Well, unfortunately, your Carolina Hurricanes.
No.
They're not yours anymore. Oh, they're mine
not.
now.
No. I have a very hard and fast rule.
Only if they're winning.
I'm off the bandwagon. Only if they win, I'm on the bandwagon. So they're no longer my Carolina. They're your, and I mean the royal you.
Oh, okay.
Your Carolina Hurricanes.
I'm glad you don't have to feel any pain about this loss. The Canadians rolled past the Hurricanes.
Beauty of the bandwagon.
6-2. It would be nice, man. I can't do it. In Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final from Raleigh, Seth Jarvis put the Canes on top just 33 seconds into the game, but Cole Caulfield responded 27 seconds later to even the game at 1 apiece. They scored 3 more times to take a big lead in the second period, and the Canadians never looked back. It's rough.
Listen to Rod Brindamore after the game. He responded.
You get behind early like that, it's tough, but we clearly were not ready for that pace, and that's, I'm not going to give the layoff as an excuse, but we weren't ready to play playoff hockey.
But the layoff, I think, was the excuse. I mean, that was the reason. They looked stuck in the mud. Now, they scored 33 seconds into the game, and I saw someone post on X. I wish I could attribute who it was. It was similar to the North Carolina opening drive in football against TCU when they went down in Belichick's first game, and everybody thought, oh, hell, this is going to be something this year. And then look what happened. Funny line, good line. I wish, again, I could remember who tweeted it, because I think that's a good line. I didn't switch it on until it was 3-1. And I thought, okay, we'll see what happens here. This is a lot of goals early. Mm-hmm. Maybe the Canes will settle in. And then it was 4-1, and then I shut it down after the end of the first period. It was time to move on and time to go to bed. So I don't really know what happened after that. I don't think I care to know what happened after that. And I'll tell you this. I don't think it's a surprise. As the great one and only Brian LeBlanc from Canes Country said yesterday, Canes are still favored to win the series, but he thought they would not do well and they would lose in Game 1 of this series to Montreal. And there's a history. They've lost to Montreal to open series before, but wound up winning the series in 6 games both times as Carolina. There's also the history of not performing well in the Eastern Conference Finals, so this only adds to that narrative. Last night, getting blown out in your own building, essentially. But I think you got to me, it's the 11-day layoff, Dom. You can't have that kind of layoff
Yep.
And come back and take on a team that is fast and that is young and is going to be fired up on the road.
Yeah, you got to respond next game. Another game at home. Make sure you win it. You can't go down 0-2 against this type of team. And it's funny to hear that 2 goals is enough for you to continue watching, but 3, it's a 3-goal deficit. It's turned off. It's over.
Well, and it really wasn't so much it's just the feel of it. It didn't feel good last night. That was more of a feel thing. And when I saw they also had 18 people on their intermission report, I just was like, I can't watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't watch that. It's too much. But they are no longer they are your.
Until next game. Until next game.
Oh, yeah. If they win Saturday, I'll be back on the bandwagon. Maybe. Depends on how it happens. Next.
5.
University of Louisville is the latest athletic program which has laid out its financial deficits. They're in a $30 million hole this past academic year. The Cardinals AD is saying that this is the new normal to be able to compete in college athletics, which is crazy.
They also got a little bit of a university transfer to the tune of $10 million, so I have the impression that number may have been bigger. There's student fees that have been baked in the cake now at Louisville, and the AD explaining to the Board of Trustees that this is the way it's got to be if we're going to compete at a high level in the 2 major sports, college football and men's college basketball. Nothing to see here. And look, that $30 million is a lot of money to be in the hole, but it is paltry compared to what we've seen from places like Penn State and Florida State, what they've come out and said they're in the hole. And again, this comes back to this is not sustainable. And instead of kind of sacking up and making some decisions that maybe are better for thee and not necessarily for we, these conference commissioners, university presidents and chancellors, ADs have really failed the system. And the NCAA has failed everybody. Instead of doing the things that the NCAA should have done to share in the rev with the players, and instead of denying that for so many years, this is why you find yourself in this situation now. And this is not sustainable. So what does the NCAA do? And to a degree, the college president, I mean, the SEC apparently has put out some kind of cockamamie idea of, well, we're going to add schools and we'll just play ourselves. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see nobody wants to see you have 2 divisions and play. Nobody wants that. No, nobody. Let them do it. And you are starting to see a little bit more of that, which I do find interesting. Institutions are saying, all right, Big Ten, all right, SEC, go. Go do your own thing. Yep. See how well that goes. Football's an entirely different thing. But, how are you going to do basketball and all these other sports? Everything's so screwed. We have screwed this thing up so much. It continues to be popular. It's the number 2 sport college football is behind the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
But we continue to screw this thing up, and we're only going to continue to screw it up more. So if you see that number and you get a little pearl clutching at Louisville, just understand it could be a lot worse, and it is a lot worse at other places. How are places keeping the lights on in a lot of these instances?
They're not going to be able to forever. I don't know how it's going to work.
There's not. No. There's not a bottomless pit of money. And then at what point? There's the private equity matters into this, and you've seen some Big 12 schools say we're not taking that private equity lifeline. It's a very interesting time. We'll continue to follow it. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back. James Giglio will be with us. Looking forward to having him on for the first time. From Hoist the Colors, we'll talk about ECU's win today in Clearwater.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app or where you get your podcasts.
I listen on my Apple Watch.
Smart speaker.
Listen while you work.
I listen everywhere.
The Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
All right. More on ECU's victory today to advance in the American Conference Tournament. And a real treat as one of Hoist the Colors writers, James Giglio, is joining us here on the show. We wanted Joe, but he's not available, so we got his kid. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But your dad is one of our favorite guests and people to have on the show. So it's a real treat to have you on here. Welcome to the maiden voyage on the Patrick Johnson Show. Nice to have you.
Yeah, Patrick, today, a lot of firsts. Today was the earliest I've ever been in the studio because we had the 9 a.m. watch along, and then also my first time on your show. So it's been a good day. Also, the first time I'm doing anything with Dom. So today's gonna be fun.
Wow, that's right. The great Dom Kosolki producing today.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So you guys did a watch along today. Will you all do any more this weekend, or is this just kind of a one-off today kind of thing?
Yeah, we're planning on one tomorrow. They play at 10 against the winner of I don't know whoever, but 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Right, yeah. So the Pirate game tomorrow will have a watch along, and for the folks that don't know, that's basically it was Igo, James, Pilk, I think one of the new interns, and one of Igo's buddies. Just what you kind of like a Manning cast in a way, just guys watching the game, hanging out, talking, eating food.
Yeah.
And here's the good news about tomorrow, James. You'll be able to get a word in edgewise since Pilk will not be there. Pilk talked more than, well, I shouldn't say he talked more than he ever has. Pilk talked about as much as he normally does. So that was Pilk.
That's a good point.
Giving Pilk a hard time.
I thought he was good today.
No, Pilk was great. Pilk was great, as he always is. Pilk, by the way, is maybe in Charlotte by the time we're up and running here. And he has to check in early or something for the Coca-Cola 600 festivities this weekend. So that's where Pilk is today. All right. Well, let's get to the – by the way, I thought you guys did a fantastic job. I thought for a minute, James, you had brought a girlfriend, but that was the intern. So I thought, man, somebody brought their lady to the party. But that was pretty good. So who's it going to be tomorrow at 10? Is it going to be you, Igo, and who?
I'm up in the air, but I think it's going to be Igo.
Oh.
I'm like 50-50 because I do have to go back to Raleigh, so it just depends on if I'm going to get up and come in the morning. But I think it's Igo, his friend Lane, who is on today. I think Dom's going to make an appearance, and potentially me or Bobby Harward, who contributes to Hoist the Colors on Fridays usually.
Gotcha. So Dom Kosolki, fun fact, holds the record for most hot dogs eaten in one of these events.
Yeah,
right,
I didn't know.
Dom, isn't that what it is?
I didn't know
if
James knew about that, but I was the only one to finish the 9 hot dog 9 inning challenge. There was no beers involved on the watch along.
Yeah, I knew that because I attempted to beat. They mentioned it last year, and I attempted to beat you, but I only got to like the 4th or 5th inning, and I was tapped out. I don't know how you did it.
It's a lot harder than it looks, but I made sure I was hungry that day. I was locked in.
Dom, by the way, loves food and drink. That's one thing about Dom. He plays so much basketball, it allows him to burn off the calories. But Dom loves some food and drink now, and but that's good. So there's something to maybe aspire for if you're there tomorrow, James.
Yeah,
is you can be the hot dog. Maybe you do 10 in 9 innings.
Yeah, maybe
something to break Dom's record.
Yeah, I might tie him just out of honor to Dom because his legacy. If I get to 9, I might just stop.
Well, thank you.
All right. Great to have James Giglio with us here today. Let's talk about the game a little bit. ECU gets down early, but it's Jack Herring who puts them on the board. And then Herring drives in a run later, which ultimately proved to be the game-winning run, proved to be the margin of victory. It would seem to me that Jack Herring probably came out today with a little bit of something to prove after getting snubbed and being not named a first-team outfielder.
Yeah, I think he came out with a home run that kind of got carried a little bit by the wind, but a home run's a home run. Then he had a double off the wall. So, I mean, he just did what he's been doing all year, really. And, he drove in all the runs for ECU, and they win 4-3. I was also impressed with, Nick Parham, who's been getting some slack down the stretch here, but he performed well today. He had a double himself. Overall, just a good day for the ECU bats in the middle of the innings, and they did what they had to do, backing up Towers, who had a good performance on the mound.
Yeah, Towers I thought was pretty good early on, got him into the 6th inning. That seems to be kind of his MO now, a handful of strikeouts. Then we see Joe Webb, and then interestingly enough, it's Ethan Norby to come and close it out, 2 1/3 innings. and 40-plus pitches. If you go on the rule of thumb that, every pitch is an hour's worth of recovery, that would lead you to believe that it's probably Sunday before we see him pitch again, possibly.
Yeah,
if that's the rule. Or is this something where maybe the decision's been made, we're moving for this weekend at least, Norby to the pen to bolster the bullpen?
Yeah, we were all shocked when Norby came in. That was probably the best moment of the watch-along is when he came in. Everyone was like, whoa, what's going on? So I don't know what they're going to do with Norby. Obviously, I don't think he can go tomorrow. I think Sunday, like you mentioned, is probably going to be his target just because he threw 40 pitches. I don't know if they were expecting him to throw 40 pitches because things kind of got wild towards the end of the game there. Yeah. But I think, the bullpen for ECU right now, clearly they did this with a plan in motion. That's not like they just did this, in a spur of the moment. Clearly they have some sort of plan. So it will be interesting to see what they go with tomorrow and potentially in the other game leading up to the championship.
I'm also kind of interested in sort of trying to figure out and piece together with this. What does this mean for some of the other guys in the bullpen? Because Webb has been used so much. Rose has also got a real heavy workload, and he's a ground ball guy just by nature of what he does with his delivery, the sidewinding delivery. But you kind of get beyond, these guys we've mentioned here, and especially with no Sean Jenkins the back part of the year, it does get a little, we'll just say a little thin, a little dicey down the stretch. So we'll see who they go with tomorrow. It would seem like it might be a little bit more of a pin day. I'm looking at the pitch count for Webb, only 22, so theoretically he should be able to come back tomorrow if needed for an inning, I would guess, or two, because he's, was on a limited number there. But do you think there's concerns about maybe the Webb workload as you go in to try to win this event?
I don't know I think we might just be too deep in the season to really even be concerned about it. If he's ready to go, he's going to be ready to go. Like you said, only 22 pitches, which is not a lot for him. And just looking at the other names on this bullpen that can go that are, not hurt, Luke Payne, Ethan Rose, Hoagland, who was getting warm today, who warmed up today, but he didn't go out there. So I expect to see some of those guys. But for the Joe Webb, who I didn't think was sharp today, but I think we'll see him again probably tomorrow, if not. We'll see him Sunday, if not tomorrow.
I also think, as we're talking to James Giglio from Hoist the Colors with us here on the Patrick Johnson Show, I also think, James, you probably will. It's a little more piecey together tomorrow, like you say. Some of those names you mentioned, or maybe the guys, and you're just hoping you can get there and then kind of come back with Norbs, even maybe as a start or out of the pen on Sunday. It's a pretty interesting strategy. I understand, you want to win the tournament, but that also tells me a little bit about maybe, the Pirate Brain Trust perhaps felt like, okay, we need another win, or we need, another kind of benefit in our resume. Because, the way the American Conference conference tournament is structured, if they were eliminated, they'd have to be beaten twice. And that gives you two losses no matter how you frame it. You have NC State, and we're going to talk about that in a second, right there on the bubble, too, according to all the prognosticators. And you have them, but they could only have one loss this week. It's a bad loss, but they can only have one loss. The two-loss thing, that's probably, I got to imagine, plays in the mind there. Obviously, you want to win the tournament, put this whole thing to bed, not worry about what could or could not happen based on a committee selection on Monday. But I just kind of wonder if the idea was, okay, we need to get as close maybe to that 35-win mark as absolutely possible, because that's usually and historically been the mark that gets a team in.
Yeah, and that was kind of one thing we talked about when we all reacted to Norby coming in is, okay, maybe in the minds of Cliff Godwin and the rest of their coaching staff is, okay, we got to win this game if we want any shot at, getting to this NCAA tournament. And they are going to be helped out by a weaker bubble. And for State's case, like you said, they only can lose once, right? And while it was a bad loss, it's only one game. For ECU, though, it showed me, though, that with Ethan Norby coming into the game, like they felt like they really need to win that game, or the game today. But since they did, I think they should be comfortably in now. And also the fact, you didn't mention it, but John Gilbert is on the selection committee. So I'm not, spewing conspiracy theories, but that could play somewhat of a factor. Maybe they need like, hey, we got one game, we got our guy in the selection committee. Maybe that's all we need, right? But obviously, like you said, you want to go out and win this tournament. But for the big picture, I think they're good after today.
What do you think has been the difference in the last, let's just say 2 weekends now, or the last 7 or 8 days? Because, just a couple weeks ago against Rice, they dropped the series. I do think that third game in the Rice series where they shut the Owls out and actually, were able to piece it together without main frontline pitching guys, starting-wise, meaning Towers and Norby. They had a couple of bases loaded jams that they wriggled out of that day. They did a lot of things to play winning baseball. The defense was pretty solid behind their pitching in that Rice game on the final home Sunday of the regular season for the Pirates. So, to me, I really think from that point on they have kind of discovered something that obviously played out in Boca Raton last week and it kind of played out in the game today, and that is relying on pitching performances, getting out of some jams, relying on the defense, and if the offense may be doing just enough. But what's your observation on all that? What have you seen?
Yeah, my observation, I would say, before I dive into the players, I would say the weather, really. I mean, they've been playing in Florida for the last 2 weeks, and the weather is beautiful down there, and this team statistically plays better in warmer weather. So I don't know. I think that might be one of the driving factors. But also I think having Grady Lenahan back just to help out Jack Herring, and Braden Burris has come along, kind of like towards the end of the season, he was slumping a little bit, not the Braden Burris that, we know and, we've seen throughout his time here at ECU. And he's really been coming along, I think, or at least been playing better. So just him and Grady Lenahan come back from his injury, adding to, Jack Herring and Colby Wallace being consistent and Davin Whitaker. I think really their bats have really started to pick up. And I still think we could see some more from Austin Irby, but he got hot right around this time last year. So hopefully, he picks up, where he left off last year at this time.
Yeah, that's been a real puzzling one all year. We've seen him make the adjustments, and try to go where the ball's pitched, try to go opposite way, not trying to pull everything, but it just continues to be a struggle for him.
Yeah, I mean, he has been definitely on the roller coaster. He still has 5 home runs. He has okay numbers, but if you watch him play, like you said, even today, he was pulling balls to first base. He pulls a lot of balls to shallow right. He has been better than what he was in that middle season when he was just on a full-on slump, it was just super predictable and he was swinging at the first pitch in high leverage spots and, grounding out, and it was just pretty much useless in the batting order. I think he's been better. He's been a little bit more patient. Still not the Austin Irby that ECU paid a bunch of money to, though, and still not the Austin Irby we saw last year. But like I said, this is the time he picked it up last year, so hopefully he can get it going again, just like he did last year in the conference tournament heading into the NCAA tournament.
We got James Giglio, Hoist the Colors, with us here. Let me ask you this. You obviously have, through your dad covering NC State for a number of years, a little bit of lineage to the Wolfpack program. You have a pretty good finger on the pulse. Elliott Avent announcing yesterday that he will retire at the end of the season, which may have been that loss to Duke. What kind of legacy does that, leave, or has he left for NC State baseball? And did it surprise you that was phrased at least like it was with the retirement?
I mean, I think it might have been more of a, hey, we're not going to give you a new contract. And I don't think he really has any real need to coach anywhere else, right? I don't think he really wants to do that. So I think, they weren't going to give him a contract, might as well call it a career. He's been there for 30 years. What I remember about Elliott Avent coaching, though, is he's an incredible human being. And I think he is what college baseball needs, kind of that old school coach, kind of the guy that's going to stand up for his players, right? He's been to 3 College World Series. A lot of people say he's not a winner because he hasn't won the ACC tournament. I think him going to 3 College World Series and going to a College World Series that they got kicked out of pretty unfairly, and that probably would have resulted in a national championship in 2021.
Sure.
At the end of the day, I think he's going to be missed in the game of baseball, and definitely at NC State because he's been there obviously my entire life, and most people the generation above me's entire life, 30 years. So he definitely left his mark at NC State, but Chris Hart, who's also been there for now a while, over 20 years, not as long as Elliott, but still a very long time. I think he'll be able to carry on some of his philosophies and traditions into this next generation, this new era for NC State baseball.
So, is the smart money that Hart takes it over, or do you think they'll go outside of the family in that case, so to speak?
For coach, they hired Chris Hart today.
Yeah. Oh, they did? Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that. So that's been announced today.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we'll go there then. Wise move?
I think so. Like I said, carrying on the legacy and it's been winning. It's a winning culture, right? NC State makes a tournament every year. They're kind of on the bubble, like I said, this year, but a weaker bubble may help them out. Maybe Elliott Avent his farewell tour, I guess you could say, short farewell tour. Maybe that helps them out and they put him in and see if they can go on a run. But for Chris Hart, I think it is a wise move. Continuity with players. He's been kind of their main recruiter. He's kind of what I would say is ECU has Jeff Palumbo, who does a lot of that kind of stuff. He's kind of like and he's kind of NC State's version of that.
Do you think that they'll continue to play ECU twice a year? That was a little dicey for a little bit. It's picked back up. And might we see something like has happened with North Carolina where maybe there's an early season series between the two?
Yeah, we were talking about that. We mentioned that on the watch along as, who would you rather play in that early season series, North Carolina, NC State. I think we should just play both of them, right? They're in state. The fan bases care about beating the other team, right? Like I talked about earlier this season. I think we'll definitely see them play at least twice a year, split the home and home. But I would push heavily just as a fan and, someone who's grown up, going to ECU and grown up around NC State. I would really like to see, these two schools play in a series at the beginning of the year, like they do versus Carolina, or like ECU does versus Carolina, play 1-1, and then maybe find some neutral site, or maybe you agree on, 1 year you play all 3 games at either NC State or here at ECU, and you flip-flop it each year. Either way, I think both teams should play more than the 2 times they do a year. And also, it's just super spaced out. I feel like they play – I know this year it was 2 weeks in between, but it was at the end of April. Right, and it was kind of in that kind of that dry spell of the season. Like I wish, the good part about the Carolina series, they do it right in the beginning of the year when everyone's happy, baseball's back, everyone's in the baseball mood again, I guess you could call it. So I would like to see them kind of elevate the NC State ECU baseball rivalry in that sense.
All right, James, what do the Pirates have to do tomorrow to find themselves in a position to win back-to-back conference tournament championships?
Bullpen. I think it's gonna be a bullpen game since we saw Norby today. But the pitching's got to be strong, and we got to see less errors today. The game started with a kindergarten level error from a collection of our players. So I would say not 3 errors, and our bullpen just stable pitching. Right, have one guy maybe go 3 innings. Take some heat off the other guys. But my main thing would be no errors and steady pitching.
Hey, good to have you on. I hope we can do it again sometime soon, and keep up the great work that you're doing.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be back soon.
All right. Great to have James Giglio with us here. Watch it, Giglio. Your son, better than you are. Get him on next time. All right. We'll take a time out and have more for you here on this Friday edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. Patrick Johnson Show to get you to the weekend edition. Hope everybody has a very safe Memorial Day weekend. We will be back on Memorial Day, our annual review of ECU and the selection show process. We're planning that around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on our video platforms for social media, and we will re-air the show on radio at 5 o'clock on Monday. So that's going on. And again, in case you just missed it, they're going to do a watch along tomorrow for Hoist the Colors at 10 a.m. for the game tomorrow. All right, quick segment here. We'll come back and wrap things up for the week right after this timeout.
And now, the stunning conclusion. Why is everyone screaming? On 94.3 The Game.
Thanks for being with us here today. Pirates win today to advance in the American Conference Tournament. They'll play tomorrow at 10 a.m. in Clearwater, 9:45 airtime on 94.3 The Game and the IBX Media app on the ECU Sports Network. It'll also be a 10 o'clock first pitch tomorrow, so looking forward to that. Nice to have you along here on this wrap up the week edition of the Patrick Johnson Show. We mentioned that we will be in action on Monday when East Carolina will hopefully learn their destination for the regional. Hopefully today's win was enough to do that. I think certainly they win tomorrow and get to the finals. They're into the postseason pretty safely. We're going to have Jonathan Wagner on that special I mentioned in our brief segment a moment ago for the baseball selection special show. And we're still working out another guest for that spot. But Stephen Igo and myself, as I understand it, will be bringing that to you on Monday. So that'll be the case. A couple of other notes. Congratulations to Beargrass Charter in both baseball and softball, as they both have won the 1A Eastern Regional Championship Series. So they both advance next week to play in the state championship series in their respective sports. We have two other local teams that are still kicking. J.H. Rose got the comeback and won 9-2 a couple nights ago. They are set to play Union Pines in Moore County top of the hour this evening. So good luck to the Rampants as they will look to get to their first ever state championship. Conley came back and doubled up Heritage. So the number one seed winning on the road 2 nights ago. And then tonight at home will be taking on the Heritage Huskies in a winner-take-all scenario to play Weddington next week in the state championship series for 7A softball. Of course, the Vikings are the number one seed in the playoff bracket. Let's see. Big thanks to James Giglio today. Nice to have him aboard. Great job by Dom Kasulki. Good to see you again, Dom. Dom, when do the River Bandits fire up? Back doing those games for Tarboro.
Yeah, a week from today. I'm excited.
Okay, awesome. Well, good luck with that. We'll remind the folks. Tell them where they can watch Dom Kasulki broadcast some Tarboro Wooden Bat League summer baseball. All right, we'll be back with you on Memorial Day, and certainly go Pirates the rest of the way in the event in Clearwater. Have a safe Memorial Day weekend, everybody. We'll catch you next week. Patrick Johnson Show.